I don't think we're going to use the full 90 minutes that Sophia booked, but I know she wanted extra time just in case. What I've got on the call today is a representative or more from every platinum sponsor we have. I have talked to most of you separately about kind of next year and how we want to do programs. But I wanted to get everyone on a group call again together one more time to talk. And then I'm going to talk more about it at the board meeting. So what I'm looking at is today in our, structure, we have we're pretty rigid. We have 8 dinner meetings a month, 3 socials, and every dinner meeting is tied to one platinum. And really any deviation from that kind of upsets the harmony between trying to get every platinum the same value proposition between it all. So when I've tried or we've tried as a chapter to mix up either the dinner venues or speakers or locations, etc., we've had a few bumps normally around audio visual, and it always kind of reflects bad on that one person versus just, an FEI event. So fast forward to now, what we're looking at going forward for next year, what I'm looking at and hoping everyone supports me on is changing up the mix of what we do so we can incorporate more types of events. So what do I mean? Some will still do dinner meetings. Like this year, I've already put a deposit down to get the DAC for our kickoff. That seems to be a very positive, kickoff for September. We'll still do academic awards in February and socials and things like that. But then I want to mix it up with whether you call it a young leader day or an up and comer or whatever. Let's have people from your partner, our partners, bring someone of any age, but that's maybe doesn't qualify as a normal member or a normal representative, and then have the members bring the same kind of counterparts, because these are the people that will be working together in 5 or 10 years. Let's get them the exposure, let's get them the opportunity, and let's drive that networking. And we could do some breakfast workshops, we can do some CPE days. Like, I still want to make sure you guys get the opportunities to present PDs, make sure you guys all get recognition at our monthly events. Some of the details we have to work out, but making sure everyone has banners and signs and goodies up. But with that flexibility, I think FEI can structure ourselves stronger for the future. Our population, our members are aging. We've stayed flat this last year. We're getting new members, 10 to 15 new members, but we're losing at the same amount to retirements and people moving away. So if we can hit different times of the day, different types of events, different things, I think we can add growth and continue to provide value to the partners. So I'll pause there. That's a pretty big topic. So I want to see what questions or concerns people have. I think for the most part, the feedback I've gotten is a bit like, okay, let me listen and see what you're saying. And then once I've brought up things like the Young Leader Day and some of those other things, I get a little excitement. So I guess I'd like from this group of partners, what are your thoughts, and how do you think am I taking FEI in the right direction?
So I'll start with a question. What does a young leader day look like?
I don't know totally yet. It can be different things. In my mind, like one thing we're toying with for late October, early November is one having a keynote. There's a guy on innovation and like haven't nailed down the total topic, but like a very interesting, let's say, keynote that would cross many types of people, but then a longer networking session, maybe before and after, at a larger amount of people there. So Jason, I think that was you asking the question. You might bring two, again, I don't know what you want to call them, up and comers, young leaders. They can be any age. Bring them along so you've got extra people coming. I would bring maybe some of my younger, people that might be leaders in 5 or 10 years, and those people can all mingle together. So there's different ways we can go and different things. They could be, smaller events throughout the city, but also some kind of bigger networking type deals.
And that would take place of a dinner meeting for the sponsors.
Correct. In the category of, if I did the large event with a keynote and all those people with drinks and appetizers, then yes.
I love the idea of switching things up a little bit. I mean, it's
Yeah.
been something we've talked about for a while in the membership committee meetings, right? What we can do to sort of drive some more attendance, and I think just taking a bit of more of a creative approach, right? And exploring now it'll be probably some trial and error, right? And
Yep.
figuring out some of these details, like what does an emerging leader day look like, or how does this mix up? But for the most part, we'd be very in favor of breaking the mold, trying to get something that's going to be a little bit more compelling, a little bit more engaging, or just something that might attract more of the folks that haven't necessarily been caught by FEI in the past. I think taking fresh look and fresh ideas is great, right? Whatever direction that ends up being.
Yeah, and I'll still have, some of the traditional dinner meetings because those are valued by a certain group of people. I don't want to lose
Of
that and
course,
abandon it.
of
But
course.
I've talked to Carrie from Purple Squirrel Advisor. She's involved in many different groups to get some feedback on how other organizations are structured. A lot of us just came back from FEI National Summit to hear from leaders in Chicago and Phoenix and Boston what people are doing, and I, it's a time of change. One thing I forgot to mention that's very interesting to us, and I know it's close to Kathy's heart, is bringing back a CFO of the Year award and having FEI be a leader, because I still think we don't have the strongest brand recognition and media presence in Metro Detroit. And I think that Phoenix did a really great job, and we talked to them with Chicago, and Chicago does a great job at it. That's where Kathy's, I think, familiar
Yeah.
with it. And they do a huge event. I mean, it's pretty large. And Kathy, maybe 10-15 years they've been doing that
Yeah,
out there.
a long time. It's sort of like the Super Bowl for accounting and finance professionals in Chicago. And so, you know, anywhere from 6 to 800 people. And so what happens is that like the communication goes out to the broader, you know, FEI channels. And really anybody can nominate a CFO. And there's like, I think 9 categories, right? So big, small, medium CFO for private and public. And then same with nonprofit. And then I think they may have one healthcare. There was some talk about do you do sort of like a, you know, an under like an under 40 category for like an emerging leader type of thing. Um, that could sort of target the younger audience that we want to drive to the FEI. So we can sort of create whatever
Mhm.
categories we want, right? And so they get nominated and then there's nomination committee that, interviews them and then they like narrow it down to the top like four, four, three, four, five, whatever per category, and then they market the heck out of it, right? Um, and so like through LinkedIn and through the FBI website and any other like, social media channels, and then the day of the winners announced. And so like generally each company that has a nominated person buys a table. So I think the tables were like tables at 10, it was like $1,200 a seat. Or no, $1,200 for the table. So about, $120 a seat, which isn't a bad deal. There's a big networking event before, and then they serve dessert during the award presentation. So it's very well done. It's a huge turnout, huge turnout. So
And Kathy, I talking to one of the former presidents of the Chicago chapter, he said, the partners that are sponsoring that event, they structure it where there's a separate sponsorship just for CFO Day, but I think they're part of
correct.
that nominating committee
Yes, they
for
are.
the CFOs that are nominated in that final, rounds. They go to the CFO's office, spend 90 minutes with
Yep.
them. And then there's, I believe, a dinner the night before with the kind of finalist. So
Yeah.
they said there's so much one-on-one access
Yeah.
the sponsors of that night or partners of that night get. And it's a kind of a year-long event. So again, we
Yes.
can't pull that off day one,
Yeah.
but changing up things, we can go from these small, networkings to traditional dinners to all sorts of big CFO of the years. It'll provide us some opportunities for flexibility. And hey, if it doesn't work, the person after me can go back to the
Right.
traditional meetings.
Right. So is the purpose to try to identify a younger membership audience that has more runway to be with the FEI for a longer period of time, or just, I mean, what, or
I
is it
think
just,
there's a
go ahead.
couple purposes in my mind. One, we're struggling to grow as a membership, and for anyone that's been able to come to some of the board meetings, one of my goals was driving us back towards 200 members, and we're essentially flat around the mid 140s, right? So we're not seeing that. We have a very aging population. I don't know the current stats right now, Sophia, but I know at FEI National they said something. I forget what the makeup of the FEI was, but I think 1/3 of all CPAs nationwide were at or near retirement age. You know, there is a pipeline problem long term in the accounting profession where there is 1/3 less people taking the CPA exam each year. So, like, we're running out of pipeline and running out of people, and our people are aging and leaving. So, I think that one thing is a concern that, like, if we do the same thing we've always done, all our people are gonna age out and we'll have no one left.
Right.
Two, I want to make sure we stay relevant and have it make sense for people want to engage, I think, in different ways. So some people might want, I think, a breakfast workshop that develops their CFO skills led by one of our partners. That's a 2-hour working session with networking. Some people might want their traditional dinner meeting. Some people might want to bring their younger people, because one thing I think our members want, and I heard a few partners say at September's meeting, was developing their next generation of talent is also a key value proposition for them. And I don't have all the right answers, Kathy. I don't know how all this plays out in the long run, but when I look at how other organizations are operating, whether it's FEI and other chapters, other places in Metro Detroit, I think flexibility and openness to a variety and diversity of items is important to cast kind of a wide net.
Yeah, I know my,
Without diluting the value of the members or the
yeah.
partnerships.
My experience working with the Wisconsin chapters, I've got sort of a unique view because I have experience with the Wisconsin chapter, the Fox Valley one, which is like, Appleton, Green Bay, Madison, Milwaukee-ish. And then Illinois, like Illinois does a whole host of different things. They do like breakfast meetings that are like focused on, like, they've got a series that, and I don't know what they've done this past year, but it was like career focused things. So,
Mhm.
um, you know, trends that we're seeing in, hiring, or, skill sets that you should have, stuff like that, right? Like, it was all career sort of focused. And then they've had like virtual events to get CPE credit that are technical in nature. They've done, lunch meetings. Um, they've done like, the tip of the pretty traditional dinner meetings that you guys are doing now, which I think are really good. And then there's sort of biggie is this CFO of the year thing. It's like that's sort of the buildup. Um, so they do a whole host of different things, and I've attended all of them. The breakfast meetings are attended, they are. So, um, I think it's all about content and topic and speaker.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion.
So another example of what we're looking at for next year, I think on October 7th, is uh, there is a movie called Show Her the Money. And through FEI National and driven by the LA chapter, they're showing it at about 10 different cities throughout the US, and then bringing the producer when they can, some cast members and other. And it's all about venture capital and private equity and the ability to fund women owned businesses where they're only getting a fraction of the money. So it's all about that kind of quest of getting show her the money, right? And so then there's a networking session, there is a movie viewing, a 90-minute movie. There is another open panel discussion where again it's some of the producers and cast, but then also women leaders in the community, in the local community. Entrepreneurs that own their own businesses, and then more networking at the end. So again, that doesn't lend itself to a traditional dinner night for us, but I think they've had very good attendance at the other chapters they've done it at. And so we're looking at doing one, like I said, October 7th and at the Imagine Theater in Royal Oak. Can't see who all is on, Sophia, but
Do you want me to read it off to you?
up to you, or you can just start calling on people. I think I see Mark from Plant Moran. I think I see a few others. I'm struggling to see the whole list.
Oh, Curtis is here from Highland.
Curtis.
Nick is here from Highland. Yasmin has jumped on. We know that Jason's here. Nick from JP Morgan Chase is here. Mark Scovera from Plant Moran is here. We've already heard from Kathy, and she has Tina with her from Robert Half.
Okay.
We've already heard from Anthony, although I'm sure he'll say more. And looks
So
like that's
Mark
the
Plant
list right now.
Moran's been a long-term partner of ours. I talked a little, I think, with you and Tom at some point, but not too deeply. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, yeah, you talked to me at the last dinner meeting, Denny, and,
Yep.
and just brief, you're right, just briefly. Yeah, I think it's a good idea because I think, you know, we need to do something different to maximize the value for the membership. And I think realizing, like you said, that, you know, 1/3 of the membership or the 1/3 of CPAs are at or near retirement, and it's going to be a changing landscape. And you know, not everybody wants, you know, to go to 8 dinner meetings a year and know, okay, well, the February one, this is going to be the the one with the students, and you know that type of thing. And then, you know, and so I think, yeah, I really like the idea of having, like, maybe throw a breakfast meeting in there, or throw, you know, like, or like what we do at Christmas time, something in there that's a little bit more social.
Right.
And you know, and maybe even, you know, nobody mentioned it, but maybe, you know, something with like an activity or something like that, just to, you know, kind of a team building thing. You know, what I think, mixing it up and just trying different things and seeing what works, and what doesn't. You know, I think makes a lot of sense. And you know, you could even like brainstorm and throw out surveys to the membership just to see, you know, what they think, and you know, where the interest lies. But yeah, mixing it up, I think, is something that we almost have to do.
Good. You said we have Curtis and Nick from Highland.
I think Nick jumped off. Curtis is here.
Okay, so you guys are Highland. I know is a newer platinum. Been a partner for a while. What are your guys' thoughts?
Danny, I'm sorry. I am somewhat off today, and I have babies in the background here, so you may
Oh
hear some
no.
craziness. But I love the variety. I would agree. It's just good to have some different variety in there, and we're all in support, especially with what's working for other chapters.
Good. Who else did you mention, Sophia? I think you mentioned JP Morgan.
Nick from JP Morgan.
Nick from JP
Hey,
Morgan.
Danny,
Okay, Nick.
can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, we're Zoom. Teams always throws us off a bit. Danny, look, I like it. I'm I guess an interim. It's been a couple of years now for FEI, and within that, you're right. I've already kind of got the flow of what the year looks like with the student night. So yeah, I think it's totally refreshing. And I mean, everything here at the bank is always geared to bring in like associates and analysts, which typically haven't been a part of FEI. So I think it's a great idea to get them involved. So spot on. Totally supportive.
Thank you. Who am I missing, Sophia? I think
Yasmin.
Tim from Wells is not here. Oh, Yasmin. Yasmin, you've been a a new partner through Citizens, but a long-term FEI partner. What are your thoughts? And you're members of lots of stuff too.
Yeah, so I joined late, so I didn't get the chance to, I apologize. I was 15, 20 minutes late here. But I get the gist of what you're asking. And I think that ultimately variety is key. I do like Nick's approach to having opportunities for Platinum to bring in their bench because they don't tend to have an opportunity to attend functions like FEI. And I think that you can do it without feeling badly about it because they're not really, the bench isn't out there trying to get business for themselves. They're more in, introductory mode, and they are looking for ways to socialize and network more so than they are looking for business, right? So it would be great to get more of the younger generation and the bench involved in some way, like some of the other organizations have. Like a young professionals and that type of thing. It also allows them to start to network with each other as Platinum sponsors. I do think that I liked your idea, which is where I jumped in, by the way, about having, kind of having some flair around the meeting, more interaction in the meeting, having a movie or some sort of a documentary or some sort of something that gets people talking and engaged and interacting, maybe even at the table level where you mix up the tables a little bit, assign seating, get people talking, get the creative juices going. So people are meeting people that they don't already know. I think that would also help.
You reminded me of a thought someone had. It was almost like a speed networking kind of night where remember during
speed
the
dating
early days of COVID with Zoom, we'd throw everyone into a room with 6 or 8 people. And then I don't know if anyone joined the FEI events, but I talked with a ton of people I hadn't necessarily talked to before. And Yasmin's right. Like we all kind of gravitate towards the people we know, but if we can get people to network, that's the whole point.
So I see that happening, in a couple of situations, right? So like we try to do that when we're doing our big events because we have people in different lines of business within the bank who never talk to each other, but they could really benefit from knowing each other. You always gravitate to who you know. So we do that. And then I've also seen it done in other organizations where they'll have a table leader that will facilitate conversations at the table with a group of individuals. And if you seat assign, right, then they're forced to interact together, and they may find some more value than coming and talking to the same people every single time.
I love that idea. Something along those lines, right? Of whether it's assigned seats, whether each person, gets a bingo card and they have to find these 3 people throughout the night at some point, right? Whether at the, and again, a lot of this, right, there's going to be administrative that goes into it, right? But in brainstorming, I'm a big believer and there's no such thing as a bad idea. So be prepared to hear a lot of bad ideas from me. But something like that's going to, encourage, right, connections with individuals you might not, whatever mechanism is going to allow for that.
Yeah, I mean, some chapters do some golf outings. There's all sorts of different types of things we can get to. Oh, Yasmin says icebreakers. Yeah, there's all. I mean, it could be interesting. Sophia, did I miss any person or partner?
I don't think so. Yeah, Wells is not here, but we'll send them the minutes and the recording if they have any questions.
Okay, good. The other thing, so along this lines, I've talked to a few people. I know Anthony and I talked as well about it. This is kind of separate than just the membership committee or the programs committee or our traditional standing committees. It's almost like a transformation task force or whatever, where we kind of decide what events we're going to try, and then the program committee can help us launch it. Because a lot of time, anyone who's been on programs, a lot of the focus and the hard work is chasing down the keynotes, setting up, if they're the event, whether it's CDs and PDs or CPE day or whatever. Like there's a lot of work to go into that piece. So to add on the, hey, blank sheet of paper, do whatever you want, I think is a little much. I think this committee, kind of is led by me with like input from this group and a few others. But then once we kind of, like Sophie and I have kind of half outlined the year, pretty much with potentials for everywhere. So big kickoff, like I said, at the DAC with a more traditional dinner meeting, and then an end of the year at the War Memorial with the outside patio, because we've always talked about running that outside. Socials in December and something fun in August. I'm blanking on a few of the other events, but all sorts of different things like that. So
CPE Day.
Yep.
yeah, a CP. So in order to hit the need of the members that get CP, including myself, and the partners that find value in hosting those PD days, I think that's something else we do, whether it's a half day or a full day, or some people do, afternoon CPE, after, then followed by drinks and apps and networking. I imagine it going in different ways, right? Like you can have hey, here's a CFO track if you want to become a CFO, and here's some skills. Or if you're a controller, it might be much more accounting and nuts and bolts focused, or maybe it's an industry focused track. Like there's different types of styles we can do to, again, capture different audiences, and then lean on our partners who have expertise in certain area and build deeper connections with people. So, that's a whole discussion in itself, is how to make those valuable and useful for people.
Denny, one quick thing that I will just share, and I don't know, I don't have an answer. I
Okay.
just want to share this with you, just for the greater good of the team. When I look back at all the events that I've attended, there is one in particular for me that stands out. And I don't remember, stands out. I don't remember the guy's name who did it, but I think if I describe it, then you'll get the idea. But it helped me to the extent that I continued to think back at what he was trying to teach us. And it was the guy who talked about brand. And it wasn't just that he came out and spoke about building your own brand. It's that he engaged the entire audience. And we sat there at our tables and we participated in evaluating ourselves. And then we asked the rest of the table to evaluate us. And you got really good feedback from people you hardly even know, that was completely unbiased, because you were like, here's my 20-second elevator speech. What do you think? Or here's what I think is the most important in my life. What do you think? And people were commenting and talking at the table. And it felt, it just felt educational. It felt engaging, and it was a ton of fun when I walked out of there. Again, I don't really remember the guy's name, which is terrible.
Was it Kaplan Mowbray at the MSU Education Center? Did he play a saxophone?
Oh man, I don't remember the saxophone.
That's the one I was thinking of, Anthony, when
Okay.
Yasmin said that.
It was
That
probably
stuck
that
out.
would have been in like 2019.
You know what it was? It was
Yeah.
one of the it was actually one of the speaker that was at the event that we gave awards to the students.
I think that's the guy.
It might be.
I think it would have been probably February 2019 or possibly February 2020. I can't recall.
Anyways,
Around
so
that time, there was
just,
also
Anyways, but your point is you
Yeah,
like
right.
the interaction, you like the engagement, you like the table discussion, you like the interactivity of it all, because, and I think that goes for any of the, keynotes, people that are engaging and interesting, captivate our attention. One of the focuses on top of 1 million AI courses at the summit was on storytelling, because we were at Disney. And it was about how to tell the story and keep people engaged, and not just read 12 bullet points off a slide, and get the audience to interact and things like that. So I think that's something we should also be aware of, especially when they're the big event nights. If it's a heads down CPE day, that might be a little different because you're going through detailed maybe learning. But even then, I think the engaging, constructive stuff, that's why I almost think like workshop stuff. Like when we had the LinkedIn session with Purple Squirrel, I was like, man, I wish I had my computer and I had 2 more hours to work on this, because I haven't updated my profile in 5 years. I'd love to do that right now while the topics are hot, you know? So, so I think it lends itself to a lot of ideas and opportunities and the ability to do both small and large, events. Another thing, I don't know how many of you have good spaces, but another thing that we heard from some of the other places is some of their partners had good venues and they would use those to host some of these things. Again, with the traditional structure of a dinner meeting with 3 separate rooms and a full plated dinner and AV and this, that, and the other, it didn't always lend itself to the spaces maybe some of you have. But again, with a different style, it may open things up to use some of your spaces, showcase your place, and allow more of your people to come too. So just a
Yeah,
thought.
Danny, yeah, I'd say that our new office for Plant Moran at the town center, it's centrally located, half hour from everywhere in town. We've got huge rooms, and facilities for food, that, we could definitely host something like that. And I think that could be
Great,
something
thank you.
that's worth exploring. Yeah.
And I think, Jason, there's the big Huntington place downtown, but I heard that's not open for outside people. Is that correct?
That is not correct. Actually, I was going to
Okay.
say we could go downtown too, and we have very similar meeting places, and we can cater in food and drinks. We actually have a rooftop that we can utilize as well, which is kind of
Wow.
nice.
I think you and Jason are talking about different venues.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, I think he's
Oh.
talking about the office downtown across from LCA. I mean, Comerica, sorry.
Okay, so his office we can host, and what am I talking about that doesn't allow it then?
So the convention center, Huntington Place, Jason, unless you have an inn that the rest of us do not. Which you might.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I could look into that, but I can tell you that we have had events at our new quasi headquarters here
Cool.
in Detroit, and it's kind of fantastic on the roof as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Hey, Denny, Highland's happy to host too in our new Birmingham office. It's a large area with big bar space, really nice venue. I'll send you some photos.
I saw it.
Sweet.
It's very nice.
Thank you.
This is great. I've already got a diversity of locations, and we only hit 3 of the partners. That's great. But I think that's the cool thing is like now if we're open to different things, we can utilize the spaces you all have for what makes the most sense. Hanging out on the rooftop sounds like a fantastic, summer activity, in downtown Detroit. There's just all sorts of different things we can do. So it's exciting. So I don't want to take up more of your time than I need to. Tell me, let's do some critical thinking. What's the worst thing that can happen? What could go wrong? What are the risks with changing next year? And I'll start. And my first risk is upsetting someone, whether it's a member or a partner that truly enjoys what we do and to the point where they want to leave. Right? That's a risk that I could see. So what are people's thoughts of risk and what can go wrong?
So my big concern really is to make sure that the integrity of the platinum sponsorship stays intact, right? That we add value for our partners here that truly is different from the gold and silver. So that is something that's on the back of my mind. I want to make sure that we increase, if anything, the exposure to our platinums versus, decrease it.
Totally agree. Good point. I also on my mind as well.
I think less attendance, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they could be hits or they could be bombs. What else? What could go wrong?
I mean, you rely heavily on word of mouth, right? When we leave FEI, we talk about how great it is, what the benefits are. We talk to our, strategic partners in telling them about it because we think they could add value. And the members do the same thing. And so where you risk isn't that they're mad, it's that they're not elevating FEI and talking about that and building up the brand. And helping to increase membership and sponsorship. So that is a big risk, right?
Yeah, the good point. So we've got to have good events, right? And like what I want to drive is a little bit of the fear of missing out, right? Oh man, I went to that FEI event and they did XYZ. Holy crap, you weren't there? Whoa, man, it was so great.
Right.
I met this person and that person. Like those are the kind of events I want to have where people feel just, oh my God, I can't believe I missed that. What are they going to do next? I hope I show up. Okay.
And going back
What
to word of
else?
mouth, that's what's going to result in better attendance, right? Because once our members feel more value and more excitement around the events, they're going to be more motivated to go out and tell their peers, which is probably going to be the most efficient way to drive an increase in attendance.
Yeah, that's a good point. For us, the best results we've had with new members are referrals from current members and referrals from our partners. Huge conversion rate. The worst results we get is LinkedIn advertising, cold reaches, you know, no one's just going to come sign up for FEI just because someone sent them a note, right? So, driving that word of mouth, driving the engagement, getting the presence better, having the pictures up on where we need to drive curiosity, and then bringing in the perspectives that have a great event, I think will help build that base and make people want to renew every year.
Right, right. It helps with retention, helps with the value we're bringing, and it helps with recruitment all at the same time.
Right. Sorry, I'm just checking if there's anything in the chat. Okay, well, if there's no other discussion, I'd say for next steps, what are they, right? So we've got our board meeting, Sophia, on June 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Wells is just jumping on. I don't know if you want to
oh, sure.
engage her for a minute.
Yeah.
But yes, our board meeting is June 13th.
Hey, Kim, how's it going? Kim Gorman, are you there?
I am here. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Sorry I'm late.
No problem. I'm just getting kind of to the end of our discussion. You and I have talked a bit as well briefly. We've talked about changing things for next year, being strategic on how we do that, different diversity of events and times of day and locations, making sure we're still driving the strong value proposition for the platinums, especially, but all of our partners, and growing membership. So I think you and I talked about it, like I said, briefly at one of the events. I don't know if you've thought more and have strong opinions, but for the most part, that we have some risks, but the rewards of change and the opportunity to continue to add, brand value, grow members, increase networking seem to outweigh them as long as we're thoughtful about it.
I would agree.
Good, perfect.
That was easy.
So Kim, you and I can talk more offline. I know Sophia actually recorded this, so you could actually rewatch it if you'd like. Next steps for me are, we've got the board meeting on June 13th for anyone that can attend. If not, we'll send the deck out in advance, and then any comments you have, let me know. I'll talk more about it then. A big reason for this call as well is I didn't want anyone to be surprised at that meeting of you all. So I'll bring this up again to the larger group at the board, assuming there'll be good discussion, and then we'll move forward with that. And then I'll create, like I said, whether we call it the transformation task force or whatever, something else that will be. So Kim, I know you've started to join our programs committee. One thing I had mentioned earlier is this is kind of in addition to that programs committee, like outside of it, where if we're going to change the whole way we do something, that's a group that's going to be led by me. And then once the idea is fleshed out, the event and the date and things, I'll hand that to the programs committee for some of the logisticals, or if we need a keynote speaker or things like that. But I don't want to put the whole blank slate what to do on them. I want to kind of keep them focused on finding really good topics and speakers and idea generation. But then within this group, any one of the platinums that wants to be involved in this, that have, maybe you guys have venue space, Kim, or other options, then we can continue to flesh out our year. Sophia and I have mapped out kind of a template of the year, which I'll talk more about. I'll circulate it with you guys all in the deck in advance, and nothing's totally set in stone, but we've got a shell of the outline for next year. And I think, as I've told you guys in the past, booking these things, you have to book them almost a year in advance in Metro Detroit, and it gets harder and harder to find the space. So again, with the creativity, it opens us up to some new venues. So I think that's
Do we
it.
need ideas for new venues?
Well, I'd say it depends. Last year, Sophia and I had went through the venue vetting of venues that worked, didn't work. Like Mary Grove was a bad venue last year. It's a great place to have a wedding, really bad place to have an FEI event. The AV was bad, the setup was bad, there was a lot of background noise, etc. And the cost ended up being much more than we thought. So, we've scoped in and out those things for our traditional FEI events. I continue to see price increases and things like that. However, as we're now thinking about other types of events, that opens up the door for, yes, if there's, whether it's places like people have mentioned earlier, or if you've got a great place to see, one of the things several of the other chapters mentioned is, getting the wow factor for these events. So the wow factor is the keynote, the wow factor is the topic, and the wow factor is the venue. So again, unfortunately, Metro Detroit's wow factor has gotten very expensive, but again, pivoting a little, I think we can bring in a wow factor and have a great young leader night with networking, maybe one speaker, or networking, or an activity, or a workshop, and then a lot of get to know yous and have a cool place to be. I know Nancy brought us to the Whiskey Factory one year for a social. We did the MGM, or Motor City, for one of the socials. We did the axe throwing last summer. So, not everyone likes everything, but they've been interesting events that the people that came seem to enjoy.
Okay.
But yeah, if you have ideas, send them to me and Sophia.
Yeah, I just sent you a list of things that I prepped for the meeting. I just emailed it to you. I'm just trying to think of venue places. Yeah. All right.
I apologize if I missed it. Did you say what the capacity we needed to accommodate at these venues?
I didn't. I don't know, because our traditional dinner meetings have been about 100 to 120 people. So Sophia's always trying to shoot way above that. We've only had a few places where we do hit capacity constraints, like I think Birmingham Country Club, we'd had issues in the past, some other places. If it is a more intimate, smaller event, that's one type of capacity. If we do the 200 to 600 person CFO of the year, that's a whole different type of capacity. So the capacity depends a lot on what we're trying to accomplish at that event, who we think the audience is, and the amount of invites. So I don't have a great answer. It'd be very, I guess, event specific. But again, to give you a benchmark, a traditional FEI dinner night is about 100 to 120 people. Right, Sophia, roughly?
Correct. Yeah. So we try to not book venues that can't seat at least 200, just so we have it if we need it, because our members really don't like it when we hit capacities and can't let them
in. Yeah, I hate, you never want to turn someone away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, if no one has any other final comments, I think I'll let you guys go and percolate ideas. If you have them, send them to me and Sophia, or bring them up at the board meeting, or however you wish, and then we'll be a lot more discussions to come.
Perfect.
Thank you all. I really appreciate the partnership and discussion from everyone. So thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye, everyone.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a
Have a
great
good Memorial
weekend.
Day.
See ya.
Same to you. Thank you.
Denny, do you have a